I'm Richard Pyatt. Welcome to Creating Dementia Solutions. It's a Miles for Memories program. We're glad you're with us once again in 2025. You know, last year, one of the things that Sherry Sherbin and I talked about was the Lancet list of areas in which you could have an effect on mitigating your risk for dementia. And one of those things is hearing. Perhaps you heard or saw our last episode with Steve Maloka. He's an audiologist at Oaklawn Hospital, which we talked a little bit about understanding hearing loss and taking steps to addressing it, hearing tests and things of that nature. Associated with that, of course, is the notion of hearing aids. And we have some really interesting information to impart today about that, and we're going to. Hi, Steve. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, hearing aids are something that have been obviously employed for a long time. I remember relatives of mine, my elders, wearing them, talking at length about some of the shortcomings involved in them. The story is today, boy, the technology has advanced, hasn't it?
Sure has.
What's different?
Well, so some of the common complaints that we would get from people who have wore hearing aids in the past, number one is always background noise.
Sure.
They go to a restaurant, they want to be able to hear people at their table, but got all this competing noise. So the industry has always tried to improve that. Each generation of technology, and it's improved. With directional microphones, they're able to focus more on the front, pick up the voice over the background noise. So it's been getting better and better. This last model that just came out, we like to use Phonak. There's different manufacturers, but Phonak came out with a hearing aid that has AI technology in it.
Really?
Yes. So how that would work is if we kind of take the example of like a construction site. So in this picture, you have a couple guys, construction workers talking, but around them you got machinery running, beeping, noises, all kinds of competing noise. And all of a sudden, AI kicks on, and it basically puts them in a bubble or a sphere. What that does is it will focus on that voice in that bubble and boost it, and everything around it just controls it and just quiets that background noise down.
So like automatic sound processing.
Correct.
On the fly.
On the fly.
Artificial intelligence.
Right.
So, you know, there's a lot of opinions and fears and happy things about AI. Here's one of the happy things. That's incredible.
And we've had fit a number of patients with these hearing aids, and the feedback has been phenomenal. I mean, in stores and restaurants, they can hear it kick in, and it just boosts those voices in front of them and quiets the noise around them. So
that was the number one complaint from my elders who wore them, was the background noise, which was just as loud as someone sitting in front of you. It was no filtering. But boy, give us 40 years and things change.
Things change. The other thing that a lot of patients struggled with hearing aids is hearing on the phone.
Yes.
It's just hard. They would hold it up to their ear. They would whistle in their ear. It just was very challenging. Well, now the hearing aids are Bluetooth compatible. Mm-hmm. So how that would work is even if the phone's in the other room, when they get a call, it'll ring directly into their hearing aids, announce who's calling. To answer it, either they just double tap their ear or they push a button and then just start talking. When the other person is talking, they will hear it in both ears directly, which is wonderful. Great sound quality.
Sure.
And when they're talking themselves, the microphone from the hearing aid is picking up their voice, so it's hands-free.
So there's a microphone on the
hearing aid to pick up their voice. Yeah.
Now, is this true if it's a hearing aid that's seated in the ear?
Yes, there's certain models that are in the ear that have that capability, and some that are really small that don't. So it depends on the size of the in-the-ear hearing aid.
Let's take a minute to talk about the types of hearing aids that there are. There still are the types that are over the back of the ear, is that true?
Generally, that's where you get the most technology, is with the small behind-the-ear hearing aids. There's more room to fit everything into that.
Makes
so
sense.
that's the one you'd have to go to get the AI technology right now. And those are also going to all be rechargeable, so no more changing batteries. So that's way better too.
Sure.
As you go down into an in-the-ear hearing aid, and for some people that just fits their lifestyle better. They always, they wear glasses, their ears are really tight to their head, it just didn't fit well. Or depending on what their lifestyle is like, they just can't have them exposed. So of course they still make the custom in-the-ear hearing aids. And you start to lose a few features because you're going with something smaller and smaller and smaller, but they keep improving those as well too.
Well, the Bluetooth capability, I suppose, is a little less surprising to me as opposed to the AI, just because I've been hearing about it for a while. I have a friend who loves the inner ear hearing aids that he wears that are Bluetooth capable because he hears, as you say, everything better. But sometimes, if he doesn't want to hear what's around him, this works very well connected to his phone.
Yeah.
This is really interesting technology. So how do we afford it? So these are, along with this great technology, there's a price tag that comes with it. And I presume that when you're talking to folks about these options, that comes up.
Of course, yeah. So whenever a new line of technology comes out, there's generally about 4 different levels to choose from. So really, no matter what level the patient decides to go with, all of them have clarity. So you're not sacrificing your ability to hear. Even if you go with the entry level, you're still going to hear very clearly. It's still Bluetooth, it's still rechargeable, so it has a lot of features. As you go up in levels, that's where the more automatic programming to help control more noisy, challenging listening environments, that's kind of what you're paying for with a higher level. But someone who's more homebound and just not in those type of settings very often, then entry level is going to be fine for them.
Sure.
So we always check insurance. Never know, so we always check to see if someone has some hearing aid benefits. If not, a lot of people do have to self-pay. There are payment plans as well too to help, spread that out a year with no interest. That helps a lot of patients.
Oh, yeah.
But then still, sometimes it's just not something people can afford. So there are a few foundations that we will refer patients to for assistance. And if they're approved, that would cover the cost of a basic set of hearing aids. There's also state programs too for patients who you can't afford hearing aids, but they just need to be able to hear at work. There's plans there that we can send them to get assistance in the cost that way too.
All right, those are good things to know. So I suppose the overall notion with that is don't let the cost keep you from having a hearing test and considering this option.
Yeah, generally we can find a way to get hearing aids for pretty much anybody that comes in. Okay. So yeah, don't let that get in your way. You just start with a hearing test, and then if that's a big factor for you, then we go certain directions for you.
Okay. That's encouraging to hear. Now, there's something of a lifestyle adjustment with this too, isn't there? We were talking earlier about the idea that sometimes we have hearing devices, but we don't put them in. So there's an adjustment in our lifestyle that has to take place. True?
Very true. So what we kind of pride ourselves on is the service that we provide for our patients. We never just have them come in, program the hearing aids, and that's it.
See you later.
That's not going to go well. So when someone has had a very gradual loss, you can't just turn them up full strength right away. It would be way overwhelming. And it discourages patients, so you have to adapt and you have to ease them into hearing the world again.
Yes.
So we always back it off. We start at a volume that's fairly comfortable for the patient. Give them a couple weeks to just adapt and get used to them, and then everything around them will start to sound more natural. But it does require them to wear them. So we really encourage, even if you're home by yourself, just put them in, because there's sounds in your house that normally you wouldn't hear that you are hearing with the hearing aids. If they've done a good job wearing them for the first couple of weeks, then I can start building them back up and giving them more clarity. Usually it takes maybe about 3 to 4 months to get them all the way tuned in. And then after that, we recommend every 6 months that they come in to have thorough maintenance done. So all these follow-up adjustments and programming service, it helps with the longevity of the hearing aid, but it just helps them sound better as well too.
So you're saying then there's some fine tuning in the device that takes place.
Correct.
That kind of reminds me of, stereos from the past, or our car stereos where we can adjust. This is similar to that.
Right.
Wow.
So maintenance is very important every 6 months, helps them last longer. And then periodically, we're going to recheck the patient's hearing too, because unfortunately, the hearing aid is not going to stop them losing hearing. It won't contribute to it either. But generally every couple years, we have our patients come back to recheck those thresholds and see where they're at. If there's been change, we can just hook those same hearing aids up that they purchased and reprogram them for more volume to compensate for additional hearing loss.
So that's something I was about to ask. We've just talked about how slick technology is, but if you've continued to have hearing loss, it's not going to automatically know that and automatically adjust.
Because it's gradual. I've had patients say it's been 2 years, I have them come in, I'm like, all right, it's time to recheck your hearing. How do you think you're doing? Oh, I think I'm fine. And we'll check their hearing, and it's been another big drop. They just didn't notice it. As soon as we reprogram their hearing aids, it's like, oh, wow, I just didn't know.
Same thing all over again.
Yes.
It's been continued to be gradual.
Yes.
So it's more difficult to notice.
Right.
So if a loved one or a caregiver is looking after someone who has hearing aids, but they're not putting them in, is there something we can do caring for them to encourage them that doesn't seem so stark?
I guess there's so many different factors, the type of hearing loss they have, how the hearing aid is programmed, the level of technology they're wearing. I guess the first thing, if that was happening with one of my patients, I would want to know about it so that I can address the issue. Try to figure out what's the cause. I mean, sometimes it could just be uncomfortable, and there's ways to fix that. I can go with a different type of piece in their ear. Sometimes we maybe gave them a little bit too much volume, and they're just annoyed by all this sound. They're not used to it yet, so sometimes we have to take a step back in order to go forward. That happens too. Mm-hmm. So I guess I would go to the audiologist and just, kind of let them determine what the problem is and try to resolve it for them.
Yeah, get to the bottom of that.
Caregiver, otherwise, they can encourage, Sometimes it's just getting into a routine of putting them in every day. Sometimes they just forget. So maybe it's like, maybe it's time to get that hearing aid in, just to encourage. It's hard. It's a fine line, because if you push too much, then sometimes people just reject it.
Yeah. So I suppose it's important to note that if someone wants to adjust the volume of their own units in their ears, can they do that?
Yeah, so it used to be a challenge, because it would always be a manual pushing a button and feeling for a lever. And if you have poor dexterity, it's difficult to do.
Sure.
But now there's apps on your phone, so it's so much easier. So you have it right in front of you. You can slide it up or down if you need to adjust it. Ultimately, once I get the patient adapted to hearing these new sounds and they're tuned all the way up, there's not much adjustments you need to do. So the hearing aids will search the environment and will adjust appropriately for you, but it is nice that you have that option to turn them up or down if you need to.
Now, if someone isn't technically inclined, maybe they don't have a smartphone, the caregiver could have that on theirs.
We've done that too. Yep. So some patients still have a flip phone, so we can't download the app. Flip phones will still Bluetooth into the hearing aids, but you can't make the adjustments on it. But caregiver would, so they can just adjust it for them if they need to.
Well, this is incredible, particularly the technology that you talked about and the way AI is helping to really make that difference for folks using hearing devices. Someone's watching or listening who might now be interested in the idea of this. Do they call you up and that's as simple as that?
Yeah, so the starting point would be to call to schedule an appointment. We would just want a hearing test to start, just to determine what level of loss you have. Most insurance companies will cover just a basic hearing test as long as you have a doctor's order.
Okay.
So either they would ask to see that your nose and throat doctor in our office and they do their exam and our hearing test the same time, or they can always just have their family doctor order a hearing test for them.
Okay, very good. Steve Maloka is an audiologist with Oaklawn Hospital. Your practice initially has been in the Wright Medical Building on the Oaklawn campus. You'll also see audiology patients in Battle Creek too.
Yeah, so I've been at Oaklawn, that practice for 18 years, and we just started an addition to our practice in Battle Creek at Beckley Road. So it's an express care, but also medical offices too. Our doctors go there a couple of days a week, but audiology services will be there 5 days a week, and that's we're setting everything up in a couple weeks.
All right, well, congratulations on that.
Thank
and
you.
that'll be helpful for those in Battle Creek who may want to avail
Definitely.
themselves of that. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
So it really is interesting, these Lancet list areas that could very well help mitigate our risk of dementia, and having better hearing is one of those. Certainly encourage you to visit Oaklawn or whichever audiology practice that may be your favorite, and sort that out. Meanwhile, Miles for Memories is on Facebook. We invite you to click the like on that page so that you're alerted when new Creating Dementia Solutions episodes come available. I'm Richard Pyatt. Thanks for being with us. Solutions episodes come available. I'm Richard Pyatt. Thanks for being with us.